we will welcome on Andrew, who will cover the team who did not suffer the Super Bowl hangover at this point, the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. So, Andrew, first tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter and what kind of content you got coming out for us.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm on Twitter at Andrew Hall FF. I write for Fantasy Pros. I also have a podcast of my own at Dynasty Junkies. Find us on there. We go live almost every Thursday night during the season, off season, every Thursday. There is no stopping in Dynasty, so we're always good to go on there. And come check us out.
I love it. I love it. So, yeah. Um, like I said, there has been pretty heavy movement on the line of this game in favor of the Bengals. Very clearly now that Lamar Jackson will not be suiting up in this one, on top of just another season of a lot of injuries on the Ravens side. But the Bengals, last year was no fluke, is what it seems. In a typically tough division, they still have risen to the top once again here. So, Andrew, what are you most confident about heading into this matchup? And is there any area of the team that you would kind of shake your confidence with what you've seen up to this point of the season?
Well, I'll say this as a Bengals fan who has watched them all season. I've been to every home game. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm not hiding that fact. I mean, I'm an unabashed fan of this team, right? I will say that the team has been kind of a tale of two teams, really. The first 5 or 6 games, maybe even 7 games, if you want to get into it, was kind of stagnant and stale, and not really sure what was going on. I know there were a lot of people when we were 4-4. It was kind of like, what's going to happen with this team? Are we really going to go? I mean, are we going to have that hangover and everything? I think the defense really picked it up. I do think Lou Anarumo and that defense really showed up and figured out that what they were doing. I think the offense decided to change some things around as well and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we got to do something different here. So I think the last 8 games, obviously going on that 8 games, winning streak, not counting the Bills game, unfortunately. But like that 8 game winning streak really, I think, showed what the team can do. And then, of course, last week we played the Ravens to kind of get this home game with all that coin flip nonsense. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you. But I will say that game, it was frustrating to watch in person because I was like, "What? This isn't the team I signed up for. What is this? Like, this is not. I mean, they're running weird patterns. They're running the ball way up the middle more. Like, it just felt really messy. And it took me probably into the second quarter to realize, wait a minute, why would we do our normal offense? The first time we saw the Ravens was earlier in the season. They saw that first version of the offense I mentioned. It was kind of iffy and not great. Why would we reveal our deck of cards to that defense? There's no reason. There's no benefit. We know we're playing them next week. Why would we do that? So I think what they did was they just installed the game plan they did from the first time that we played them, and we just kind of played a let's just get out of here with a W kind of game. And I think that's what made me a little worried at first. And kind of, I think a lot of Bengals fans are like, why aren't we stomping them here? But we don't need to. All we need is a win. And we got the win. Didn't need to be pretty. We didn't get any injuries other than obviously Leo Collins has been out. And we got Kappa, I think now is hurt. And so he's not going to play in this game. So that kind of stinks. But like no other injuries that were, dramatic and huge to the offense, thank God. But again, I'm looking forward to a good game. I'm looking forward to our offense kind of showing up like they're used to. I'm looking forward to our defense standing up. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a very different game than the last two we've seen against the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of an area of concern for your opponent's side of the ball is just the inability to put up points. And as far as I'm concerned, to hang with the Bengals, you have to be putting up points. Now they haven't topped 20 points in 7 straight contests. So I think as long as you guys score 21, I think you'll get the W, but you still got to take care of business and just not screw it up, if you will. I think there are a couple games on the wild card slate that should be pretty easy wins, and I would consider this to be one. Now, still got to execute, still got to just not, vomit on yourself, if you will. But
Right.
I think because I mean it does happen, it does happen.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think definitely the Bengals are primed to for sure succeed at home against a tough division rival, but it's not quite the same tough division rival without Lamar Jackson, of course.
No,
But
I completely agree. And I think our defense is going to do well. But also, I mean, having a 9.5 point spread right now is that's a lot. And like you put it well, I don't want to vomit all over ourselves and all that. Like that's exactly right. If this was our team last year, I'd be nervous. But I know that
mm,
we've been to the playoffs. I know that we've done this before. I know Joe Burrow's got it figured out. So I'm not really that nervous on the sense of are they going to vomit on themselves, right? That can't always happen. And I am always nervous a little bit of that.
of course.
That being said, it is still kind of a divisional game, and it is a game with a team that regardless of who's a quarterback, they know us really well, And so that 9.5 point spread is a lot. And I wouldn't fault anyone for taking Ravens plus 9.5 because as we've seen, any game can be close in this NFL right now. We've got teams that should be blowing people out that are winning close games. I mean, Buffalo both times against Miami, were both were close games and should have easily won. So I think it just happens all the time. So I'm just hoping for a good game, no injuries, that we get through it. I would love to have another home game, but we're going to have a whole lot of things go right for that to happen. So I'm just expecting a really fun game on Sunday night. Crazy atmosphere, crazy excitement and energy, and I think it's going to be a good game.
And you'll be at that game.
Oh yeah, be at that game
Oh,
just like every other
that's
game. Yeah,
awesome.
let's
Awesome,
go.
awesome.
Let's go.
Love
Ready.
it. Now, say the Bengals win. How far do you think they have the opportunity to go in this playoffs? And if you're not predicting them to win the Super Bowl, who would you be predicting as a Super Bowl champion for what we've seen from the collective NFL up to this point?
Well, I'll be honest. I'm predicting them to win a Super Bowl. I have to. Like, at what point does this team show weakness? I can't see it. And again, I think with the way that we got there last year, it felt
Yep.
like all the stars aligned. I feel like the stars have stayed that way. We haven't really, again, we haven't gone crazy. I think even if we have some struggles on the offensive line, which you could call our weakness still, even with the injuries, I still think this team has what it takes to make it happen and to get it done. So I'm very excited, and I am predicting them to get there, but it's a rough path. We're going to have to go through, in my prediction anyway, we're going to have to beat the Bills and the Chiefs and then the Eagles to get to the Super Bowl championship. So that is probably one of, if not the hardest path for any team to go through. And again, that's expecting the Eagles to get there, which is a whole different path of its own that people may not predict. But again, just the way that it's lining up, we're going to have to beat at least the Bills or the Chiefs, if not both, just to get to the Super Bowl. And then we're facing whoever the best NFC team is, like we saw last year. So it's going to be brutal. And it all starts with this win, one game at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I do think that, Zach Taylor and the boys have it figured out. I do think that, again, there was that kind of bye week with that Monday Night Football thing. They got ready. They didn't have to play. It was a really weird, emotional game for everybody. So it was
Yeah.
nice last week to see the rust get knocked off, to kind of get back in the habit of things. That's entirely behind us. So again, the timing in my mind is pretty good. We're on an 8 game winning streak. Like, now is the chance that we got, just like last year. And again, I am very glad we didn't experience a hangover like the Rams did. I mean, that team is just, I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, I'm just glad to not be a Rams fan this year. Is really where I'm at.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really when you look across the Bengals offense, it really is quite terrifying. You got the slot with Tyler Boyd, big guys on the outside. Well, I guess Higgins plays in the slot too sometimes, I suppose.
Even
But
Chase
Jamar
in the slot,
Chase
yeah, they just kind of rotate those three, and that's the best thing about having those three is you never know where they're going to be.
on top of Hayden Hurst being back, which I think is huge, and then a really nice 1-2 punch with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine on
Yeah,
top of Joe Burrow. So it's a pretty fantastic offensive, very fun team to watch. So just
definitely.
being as an Eagles fan, trying to be unbiased, the Bengals are just a lot of fun right now. So if it comes to a Bengals Eagles Super Bowl, of course I'd be devastated if the Eagles lost, but I would still would be happy for the Bengals if they took it. So yeah. Now, real quick here, you touched on it in the beginning, but like the whole coin flip thing. Can you just summarize that in like on like an elevator ride? Like what's going on with the coin flip situation?
Yeah, so the rules that the NFL had before this game, they did have contingencies in place for canceled games, most likely due to weather and other things like that.
Right.
I think the fact that it was the end of that week and there was only 1 week left, there was no bye weeks they could move games to. They can't really move the playoffs. I think there's just too much on the line with TV contracts and things that would just been brutal. So they were kind of almost figuratively up against a wall. And I think the way the NFL did this was probably the best possible outcome. I don't want to get too negative on this, but the
Sure.
logic was the fact that the winning percentage for the Bengals was going to be higher than the Ravens no matter what. So therefore, the Ravens had no chance to win the division, whether they beat us or not in Week 18. But
Right.
because if we had lost to the Bills, they would be playing for the playoffs or for the home field advantage and all that. The NFL
Mm,
wanted to kind of be quote unquote fair and give the Ravens a chance to earn home field advantage, even though they had no chance to win the division. Now, again, I get where they're going with this, but there's never been a time in NFL history where the division champion didn't get home field advantage. That just makes zero sense to me to say, well, we're going to do this thing that we planned out, but we're going to change the rules to give your opponent a chance. I mean, it just made no sense. And then it forced the Bengals to have to start everybody. We couldn't rest anybody. And the
sure.
Ravens
Yeah.
obviously were like, well, we have a long shot to win anyway with Lamar hurt. So they got to rest JK and Mark Andrews. It's like, they got a little bit of an extra bye week in a sense to come in fresh to the playoffs when it matters more anyway. So again,
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
don't know.
Okay.
It just the whole thing was just kind of wonky. So again, if the Ravens had won in week 18, there would then be a coin flip to see which team got the home field advantage for this week's game. So because the Bengals won,
Oh,
there
I
was no
see.
need for a
Okay.
coin flip.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it was.
I gotcha. Yeah, then of course, Joe Mixon pulled the quarter out of his sock, and that
Loved
was
it.
hilarious. Yeah, it just
Loved it.
was flashbacks of like Chad Johnson,
Yep.
on the frame and on your wall there. So yeah, that was awesome. But Andrew, appreciate your time and appreciate you talking about your Bengals, and best of luck.
Hey, glad to be here. And again, I'd love to face your Eagles in the Super Bowl. That means we both had great seasons. I'm with you. Like, even
That's
if we
right.
lose in the Super Bowl again, I'm not, I mean, again, it's hard to say what I'll feel, but I will not be as upset as if we didn't make the playoffs, right? Like,
That's
being
right.
second place is definitely better than 14th. So, yeah, or I guess 16th or 15th, whatever it is this year. But yeah, I'm just excited to be here. So, again, thanks for having me on. It was always fun talking about my Bengals.
All right, you got it. All righty, sir. Thanks. Appreciate it.